Motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Wentworth.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I thank the member for Werriwa for proposing this motion. My contribution today will focus primarily on the gender pay gap, and I agree entirely with the member for Werriwa that it is a major social and economic concern. But while the gender pay gap may originate as a financial issue, it doesn't stop there. It flows to girls' and women's sense of self-worth and confidence, our mental health, and ability to care for ourselves and our families. According to KPMG, almost a quarter of the gender pay gap is explained by the types of jobs that women do. This is critical, and I commend the government for trying to address some of this through the low-wage stream of their recent Industrial Relations Bill. I absolutely support the recent 15% pay increase that has come up through for the aged care workers. And while I support elements of the bill that just went through, I believe that we should have addressed the gender pay gap through other awards as well, such as childcare awards, to make a real difference to workers today. And I also want to acknowledge that while the government, I believe, is genuinely trying to address this, I think there are real concerns from the business community about elements of the bill, which I think we need to address and consider very carefully. But let me talk back to the gender pay gap. There is still much more to do, despite the work that I think the government is genuinely trying to do here. We need to ensure that the government, businesses and community don't ignore the other drivers of pay gap, particularly including gender discrimination, care and family obligations. It is astonishing that gender discrimination persists in Australia, and that it is the largest driver of the gender pay gap, accounting for 36% of the total. That's right, the gender discrimination persistence is what is actually driving, is the biggest driver of the gender pay gap. There are a variety of drivers of this discrimination, but it includes greater scrutiny of female workers, fewer opportunities for social capital formation, and different standards in relation to recruitment and pay negotiations. We, as a community, need to work doggedly and systematically to identify and resolve these barriers to female equality and success. Another important driver are care and family responsibilities, particularly career interruptions around parenthood. Now, this is very close to my heart and very close to many families in Wentworth's hearts. A recent Treasury report estimates that women's earnings fall 55% in the 5 years after they become a parent, which is what they call the motherhood penalty. If, late nights, sleepless nights weren't quite enough. This is driven by lower participation in paid work, fewer hours worked by those who choose work, and lower hourly pay. Treasury's work shows that it's the mothers who suffer this penalty rather than the parents. The fatherhood penalty is virtually non-existent. And this is corroborated by Grattan research based on OECD data, which shows that men just account for just 2% of the primary carer parental leave in Australia. The OECD averages around 17%, which just shows how far we are behind. And it shows that reform needed is particularly cultural. We have a problem in Australia where we automatically expect mothers to be the primary carer. Many families spend a lot of time thinking about whether to have children and how many to have, but they don't spend as much time thinking about how the parenting workload will be split up, who will be the primary carer, and the social and economic implications of that decision. This decision matters. It's a conversation that couples should be having before they become parents. But it's also a conversation that we need to readdress the balance and accept that this should be a very open conversation rather than one which has assumed roles built in. And my hope is that the proposed reforms to paid parental leave, which will help encourage couples to have this conversation. I very much support the government's choice to bring forward to increase paid parental leave to 26 weeks. But for me, this is absolutely crucial that at least 6 weeks of those is held as a use it or lose it for the second parent. Because we need to change the culture of how we raise our children. And we already have a 2-week paid second parent leave at the moment, but it just doesn't get taken up and it doesn't change the culture. We need to change the culture so that men are involved, and it is typically second parents, which are typically men, are involved with caring from the beginning, because this makes the difference both to the gender pay gap, but it also makes a difference for male mental health, for male connection to children, and actually for children's development. It's absolutely crucial, and we must change the culture of how we raise children in this country. This could make a real difference in the gap and to the lives of women right around the country. It's no silver bullet. There's a lot more which needs to be done, but it's an important and practical reform which we can and should deliver and support in the new year. Thank you.